Purushotami. Today we are here in this forum to discuss about the global opportunities of Durga Puja, and with me I have two eminent personalities from the form of art who have come down from across the globe. To begin with, on my left, Dr. Leslie Jones, a visiting professor of art and art history at Vishwa Bharati University in Shantiniketan. Dr. Les Jones is recipient of the Fulbright Nehru Professional and Academic Excellence Award and is a senior fellow at the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts in New Delhi, where he is examining the intersections of performance, visual cultures and heritage. A multimedia contemporary artist and critic trained at Central St. Martin House, London and Goldsmith, he is recipient of Japan's Monbusho Award and US Public Diplomacy Awards for Mongolia and China. He has curated and produced museums and gallery exhibitions in the United Kingdom, Japan, Mongolia, Singapore, France, and was member of the curatorial team for the first Taipei Biennial. His work has appeared in Art in America, Flash Art, NHK TV Japan. As a senior scholar on modern and contemporary visual cultures, he researches the future of museums and has advised galleries and international organizations since 1989. Welcome on show, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you.
And she's Pauline Larboyer. Pauline comes from Paris and has lived in Kolkata for the past 4 years. That's very interesting. She holds a master's degree in sustainability and social innovation from HEC Paris, has developed expertise in strategy, consulting, social entrepreneurship, impact assessment and community building over the years. Pauline is associated with the Techno India Group as sustainability director and also co-founded Eastern India focused, SDG focused network venture Y East just after she moved to India. Overall, she has developed passion for building communities of organizations towards sustainability, being through community-based ventures, Y East, Youth for Sustainability India Alliance and #LearningPlanet. We welcome both of you.
Namaskar, thank you so much.
Okay, first things first, before we begin with the discussions, we would just like to have an insight about what is your experience with Durga Puja, what you have been witnessing.
Would you like to?
Sure. So as you rightly mentioned, I've been here for the past 4 years, which means that this year is my 5th Durga Puja. Cancel it off, a couple of years because of the pandemic. Right, so 2-3 times I've had the opportunity to move around and do pendle hopping as a real local. Some of my friends and my family here in Kolkata have taken me around. What is interesting is that it's not only a visual experience, and I'm guessing with Leslie we'll talk about it, it's not only a visual experience, it's also so many stories and tales that actually get communities and families and friends together. So it's really a moment of not only visual experience and sensual experience through the artistic pandals, but it's also a moment of very strong bonding and relationships and celebration together.
That's great. And I really love the way you put the word Durga Puja, because that is the word we Bengalis use.
In Bengali, I'm trying.
So it's not a Durga Puja, but then again it's Durga Puja.
Correct.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Pauline.
Thank you.
So I am fascinated by this being an event that brings so many people and almost redefines something that has been something quite close to people's hearts, family-oriented, village-oriented, but now it's becoming spectacle. And I think that's very powerful, especially when the Durga Puja becomes, it starts investigating contemporary expressions. One thing I have noticed is that it turns its axis on a core idea of devotion, a core idea of Indianness, a core idea of also Bengali identity. So that to me is an important lens to better understand what it is and what it probably will become in the future.
That's great. So what is it that, what kind of perceptions you have gathered till now?
I've been in India looking at spectacle when art, as I'm a practicing artist as well, when art becomes beyond ourselves, when it leaves our studio, it becomes something else. It's collected by collectors, it's shown in museums. And I started asking many years ago, what is that relationship between the artist and the production? So I started thinking that when it becomes as big as it's become, then we start seeing other tendencies. What's held it together is basically the religious focus, or I would say even more, the central focus of Indianness that makes this quite unique. It's what we share. Before we started today, we were talking about events like Christmas, for example, how that's something that is shared. Even, when I'm in France, I'll have Christmas with friends, or Germany, or Belgium, wherever I am. And it'll be a little bit different, but we share something. But this is even more powerful. I think this puja is something that's unique, that's actually going into new areas of becoming popular with more and more crowds. But I see them as mostly Indian. They're coming to see their own culture.
Your take on this, Pauline?
Well, I like every Sunday, I have my grandmother on the phone, and I told her about Durga Puja and how, everybody is celebrating now. And she told me, oh, you know what, on, this French national TV channel, I actually saw a short documentary showcasing Durga Puja from France. And it's the first time in 4 years that they tell me they actually are able to witness it from their French TV, which actually I think is explained to a certain degree because of the UNESCO, of the fact that Durga Puja became a UNESCO intangible asset. And as you said, I think it's beyond, it is a showcase of Indianness, but what I have felt going around is this very strong feeling of inclusiveness more and more over the years, no matter where you are from. I actually talked to a couple of people from France who were there as well, from Delhi, who came to visit explicitly because of Durga Puja. And I think this is this open doors. No matter who you are, you can participate and have that feeling beyond only that vision of what Durga Puja is. I think is, as you said, very powerful and definitely deserves to be further showcased on the international stage, because I've always been mind blown by the talents and the craftsmanship that goes behind all of these pendles that you see across town. I'm guessing there are tens of thousands of them, and each of them have this uniqueness. It's kind of a stage for expression, I feel, a collective expression, which I think is really interesting and doesn't happen at that massive level in many instances in the world.
I would add to that, I think it's being performed when we attend it. I mean, foreigners will attend it, Indians will attend it. There is a performance. When we're part of that, we're actually performing a communication with art.
Yeah.
So, but if we go into Indian history, the idea of being able to see something has its own power. And that's not necessarily translated into all cultures, although we do have some parallels with that, with seeing the Madonna in a church, for example. That would be devotional. But this is quite different. I think I'm learning quite a bit about how to see differently.
Can I add something to this? So this morning I booked a walking tour through this organization called Calcutta Capsule. I don't know if you know them. They're doing brilliant work organizing different walking tours in the city. So I did one of them this morning, and Shoham, the founder, he said, who was the guide, he said, what's interesting in the Hindu religion especially, or way of life, is that all idols would have always their eyes open, because it's not only us who look at them and pray to them, it's also them that look back at us. And I think that is very powerful, because it makes us having to be self-conscious almost about all of the performance that we put in front of the god, and the food and the dance and the music. And I mean, I don't know if they actually look at us, depending on how faithful you are or not, but the reality is it creates these moments of art, of bonding, and of performance in front of the gods and in front of everybody.
And presence.
And presence, yes.
So you come to see it. You have to see it. You can't
Absolutely.
You can't look at it necessarily in a book. You have to experience
Correct.
that.
It's something to experience.
And that's something that I, going to the Uffizi Gallery in Florence.
Yeah.
I mean, I could look at those in books. I do appreciate seeing the real
the
thing,
same.
but here it's a completely transcendental concept.
Yeah.
Here we are entering with the divine. I'm not going to go into religion at 90 miles an hour, but the idea is that is a traditional relationship, and I think that's quite powerful. Even though it might be passive, it's also shared, and that's where I look at this as what are the focal points in such a large-scale art exhibition. Even the contemporary work will have a focal point of that. And can that exist in another culture, for example, as a possible model or an inspiration for other international activities? And then I think about the great world fairs, where they would have and in Britain they did that as well as in the United States, especially in Chicago in the late 1800s. The idea, there was a celebration of industry. If you go to Jaipur, the main museum there is a celebration of it's a British model museum, but it's a celebration of local industry and local culture. It's always remained that way. So that's one thing I always wonder is what are we retaining to take that? How can we learn from this to expand how we experience art around the world? So what do you think?
Absolutely.
What was your experience looking at the puja?
My experience has been it's more varied because we have been watching it closely since our birth.
Certainly.
So things have changed. The tradition haven't changed much. The way puja is being organized, that has changed over a period of time in the last so many years. So things were subtle when we were in our younger days. So as time, with years passing by, things changed in the form of the art form taking a more dominant, being more dominant in this entire festivity, where people gave more, I would say, importance to the art, and the tradition continued to be the way it was usually. So there hasn't been any change in the way the rituals are done, in the festivities, everything, like the food, the music, the special dhak which we call. So that goes with the pujas. So maybe we can say that the form of God has changed. So artists use variety forms of elements, props, everything to portray the gods and her children coming. But then again, the main figurative elements of puja hasn't changed over the years. So whatever it may be, you might have a brilliant different pandal depicting variety of things, but you will find the dhak, you'll find the festivity, you'll find the rituals. These things hasn't changed. So, and it won't change in the days to come also. Maybe the art form will take a different route. Maybe we'll, God knows what is there in store for us in the upcoming years for our next generations to witness Durga Puja as. These traditional things will continue.
I think what's also very interesting in Durga Puja is the temporary nature of it. So that there's an annual cycle of for the past 6 months before the festivities, all of the artisans are coming together and bring these pandals to life. And then on the 10th day, here they are being immersed in Ganga, right? And then the cycle goes again year after year. So I think as much as you could think it is about destruction, is that it's actually about creative destruction. That is, it needs to be destructed in order to come back to life the year after. And it also gives maybe a bit more power to the experience, because as you said, it kind of embeds you into the present moment, into the fact that you only have X number of days, 10 days to actually enjoy, and then see you next year. So I think that is
interesting. So but there's also, I would add to that, there's also the rise of media, which is influencing how we see things. And if I look at how visual culture expands in great pushes, I might say that in Great Britain we had the YBAs, we had many art movements that kind of peaked at about 1999, 2000, and there was a sense of awareness of what art is, and it became for Britain, I think, a sense of connection with British identity, and so. When you're mentioning that, Durga Puja has a central focus within the family, within traditions. Also, it's becoming sensational. And in going into contemporary art, that's a very bold step. And it should happen because it means that we have both and. We have the traditional, but we'll also have experimentations because these are eventually mirrors to our own communities.
I think Shoham also was mentioning this morning, if I'm not mistaken, traditional pandals, you would call them shabeki.
Shabeki. Exactly.
And then you have themed pandals, which are the more modern art.
It's called the Arte Thakur.
So I think that's what you're talking about is the tradition is not getting lost, but at the same time you have this diversity of art.
Form is getting changed, I would say. Okay. The way the goddess is perceived. So if you see the Akchala, what you were talking about, the Shabeki Thakur is more like an Akchala, where you have a single background, and the goddess comes with her 4 children in a very traditional way, so which is kind of common. That's more like a Shabeki look. And now goddess comes in variety ways in the art form, where now it has evolved so much that in many pandals we can see that the goddess alone is there. Maybe the children have been treated altogether not as gods and goddesses, but then again just children's, like who comes once in a year or maybe once in a month, who visits their mother's house. So it's like more like a homecoming for them, where they know that they have got an off from their daily routine, so they are coming to celebrate these 10 days. I don't have any other work, so it's only fun and only fun.
What do you think of the way it changes? Do you see it as a positive change?
I see it as a very positive change, because unless and until we are changing, then the mindset, the global doorway, it won't change. So now we have an international connect primarily because of the change which has happened over a period of time.
Right. Yes.
And also I would just like to share one very interesting aspect about this puja is that, apart just deviating away from the art and everything, what you're seeing is that for Bengalis, for us, the sentiment, these 4 days just passes in a flash. You have this program, you have that program, you go there, you do this. So it's all a to-do list to do. But the feeling is there. The moment puja steps in, a feeling sinks inside us that, okay, puja has come in, that means it has ended. Like, it's just going to end in a flash. So that excitement which gets built, 2-3 months prior to the puja, when you see that the bamboos are getting stuck on the roads, that okay, this is the first thing, that the pandals are getting built. So that's more like the feeling which Bengalis feel, that okay, in Bengali we call it as pujo asche, that means puja is coming. So that's a very different sentiment, that's a very different mindset. There is a kind of enjoyment inside that, okay, we'll do this, we'll do that, so many things to do before that, and this year what will be the changes, this, that, looking forward to. But once the puja enters, it's only about appreciating the art. You go pandal hopping, you do the traditional rituals, you do the puja related things, and
so there's
so on and so forth.
Kind of akin to Christmas spirit.
I was about to mention that.
And so we could call it Pujo spirit. The idea
which starts much before the
spirit is pushing towards like September now.
Absolutely.
So, if you're doing
it's like the homecoming. So wherever you are,
that's true.
Christmas,
family time is coming.
Well, some places are Christmas shops 365 days a year. I've noticed that.
True.
The idea of the Christmas spirit is also important because it's shared. And now there's this, with the contemporary, there's also an intergenerational appreciation. It's something for almost everybody. Also, I would like to say agency, when artists are actually expressing themselves within these structures. They say, I want to do this in this way. For example, Mr. Paul's extraordinary work. The idea is they have agency to explore something that is based on tradition of Durga Puja, but also exploring some new conceptions in their minds, and that becomes interesting to people, so it keeps it alive.
Keeps us alive. absolutely. Kind of that thing sets in that, okay, if I'm witnessing it, then what next? So I'm looking out for what's going to happen. It's going to be more better in the upcoming years. Next year, so if this year was this, so next year it might be more grander.
The pressure.
Exactly. So taking cue from this, Leslie, I would just like to, kind of understand from you that you come with experience, a bagful experience of global mixed bag, kind of the art forms, everything across countries, across cultures, across diversities. So how would you compare Durga Puja with all the, kind of art elements and everything related to it, which you have witnessed over so many years across different countries?
Well, I live in New York, and New York is an event that happens. There's a gallery season that happens. So that's something that people participate in, and they observe each other.
When is that?
It starts in September after the August holidays, and just keeps going on and on. And then they go on holiday again. But then there is going to openings. It's a very public event, and it's a way for us to express our opinions, talk to people while looking at art, and seeing how this mirrors us. Not everybody likes the same thing, but it is a space for us to see what progresses. In the 1980s and 1990s, there were a lot of artists that were creating spectacle. And in Britain, when I was there, they actually responded to, young British artists made very spectacular works. Damien Hirst put a shark in a tank, a dead shark, but he put a shark in a tank. And that was quite bold. That's a very bold thing. And then my generation of goldsmiths, we wanted everything to look like it was handmade over the weekend. So we aspired to be Sunday artists. That's what we talked about. So we called it DIY, do it yourself. So when we have something that bursts out into something that's bigger than life itself, at some point there probably will be another thing that will develop after that. So that I don't think everybody's going to be just outbetting themselves, buying islands and sending people over on airplanes. They will, just to have the biggest event in the world, there will be other events that will come up with new identities for Durga Puja. I'm certain of it, because it just keeps on giving. So.
What's interesting with Durga Puja as well is, if I'm not mistaken, there's a whole list of countries, especially because of the Bengali diaspora around the world, that already are doing some local celebrations and manifestations of Durga Puja.
As per the latest thing which is there in the internet, so Durga Puja is celebrated in more than 150 countries.
This is what I've heard as well, yeah, which is absolutely crazy.
It's more like that, kind of whole saying, they say that whenever 10 Bengalis they gather, so the first thing is that, 10 people are here, if there is no Durga Puja, let's start doing a Durga Puja.
Exactly.
I'd be interested to learn more about your work on sustainability and how it impacts local societies.
Right. So the way as you rightly mentioned, my professional and personal focus is sustainability. Now, it's a big word.
Exactly.
What does it mean? When I observe a reality, there are typically three different angles of sustainability that you can look at. And a fourth one, which would be really lovely to explore further with you, would be the artistic sustainability. But we discussed a little bit about it and how it can there can be continuity between tradition and modern through art and Durga Puja. Now, these three other dimensions that I was about to tell you about in terms of sustainability are social sustainability, financial sustainability, and environmental sustainability. So if we take social sustainability, we also have mentioned quite quickly that Durga Puja brings people together. It is more and more inclusive. Just a couple of details that may have, you may have paid attention to as you were working in this particular pendle is, for example, that the names of the artists were also written at the from the entrance to the pendle. There are many ways in which the festival of Durga Puja is becoming more inclusive and bringing people and communities together. In that way, social sustainability is somehow taken care of. Now, financial sustainability is also very interesting because each and every pendle has a pendle committee, and they, through crowdfunding, neighborhood by neighborhood, are able to actually sustain and make it happen. And then you also have the cash prizes that are,
And also sponsors.
And sponsors. So in terms of financial sustainability, it's very interesting. It is crowdfunding before crowdfunding even happened to Western societies, if I may say. Right? So people putting in the common pot, and this is how it maintains itself year over year. And this is this collective participation that makes it all possible, of course, with some governmental support as well. And now the final key of that triangle is environmental sustainability, which is the trickiest one, I would say, in this particular situation, because when you have so many people coming together for such a big celebration, obviously it opens the way to potential excesses in terms of consumption, in terms of waste, in terms of immersions of the idols in the river. None of that is environmentally viable. So I am part of that community here in Kolkata locally who is trying to raise awareness on the environmental damage that the festival for now is still entertaining, trying to get people to celebrate in a more sustainable and environmentally responsible way year over year. And that can take different shapes, right? It's about the municipalities setting up different better waste management and waste disposal at a local level. It's about, I don't know if you've seen, but the amount of flexes around town that are just there for Durga Puja, and because of course they know that the crowds will be in the streets, but you would usually see the same ad 10 times over a kilometer. What is the use or the wasteful use of all this? And then obviously all of the materials that go into the river is something that is slightly problematic. We need to make sure that all of the materials that go in are actually organic matter, but it usually goes along with not so organic matter.
just to give you a brief insight, okay, so coming from the Durga Puja lover community, so I am associated and I do organize a Durga Puja award called Shaarod Shiromoni. So I have been a part of it for the last 22 years, and in the last 15 years we have moved away from the usual awards of giving it to the best pandal, best pratima and the best artistry. So what we have done is that we have considered this social angle. So we were one of the first ones to probably bring in the social angle, which also included the traditional artistry as well. So traditional artistry combined with the social angle. So we only, this activity which we have been doing for so many years have really developed this sense of responsibility to the Puja Pandal committees also.
Absolutely.
So I would tell you maybe 15 years back, so there was a parameter that, lead-free paint you have to use. If you're not using a lead-free paint, then definitely you're not a part of my award. Now, over a period of time, this has become a usual thing. Everybody uses lead-free paint because the lead, once the idols are immersed in the river, that causes havoc.
Exactly.
So now it has become a standard practice. I would tell you, because of these kind of social awareness and the environmental friendly things which the puja committees also have become very, very aware.
Thankfully, it is positively changing.
I would say all of them.
Yeah.
If not pointing out one, two, anything, be it recycling of the items, be it using environmental friendly items to, put up this brilliant art show, everything. So there has been that consciousness which is very much there, but yes,
and
it has to be a
changing mindset.
It has to be a 360-degree thing, wherein what you were saying is very important, that it's not only the puja committees, because they are taking care of their part of responsibility.
Exactly.
But what about the others? What about the government doing something more to do this? What about the crowds which are coming? So are they doing their bit also? So it's more like, I would say it's a long drawn thing which has to be done over a period. It's going to take some time, but then we are on the right track, I would tell you.
It's a whole different conversation together, and I understand the pace of the efforts, and I completely acknowledge them. I also acknowledge the fact that we all have a shared but differentiated responsibility. So you do whatever you can do wherever you're placed in society. So the pandals are doing their way. Now the crowds that are coming in, are we giving them everything we can, or are they providing themselves with everything they can to especially avoid what we call single-use plastic, right? Which is everywhere. Are we regulating the amount of ads and flexes around town, which has to come through government law, I believe, which is their share of responsibility. So it's all a crossroads of of individual and collective responsibilities. Thankfully, as you said, it's better and better. What I see in these collectivities and communities that I'm a part of that are really, really pro-environment is that Durga Puja also offers the very rare opportunity for whoever to access a crowd, right? So this is also why ads and corporations are going to jump on that occasion. This is also when, in terms of changing the mindsets, in terms of raising awareness on some issues, is also a very interesting platform to do that, because tell me one other event around town throughout the year that gathers so many people in the streets. You don't have that. So it's an interesting platform, but I think we have to learn how to best use it to the best use we can do.
Precisely, and I think with populations growing and with this becoming part of a mainstream media, there will be more and more people that will come in, and the money that's driven, through tourism will support that. So it is creating awareness probably ahead of the curve instead of just behind it.
Yes.
And that needs to be in an effort with government also to back that up. And that has been successful in more recently. So that's
Absolutely.
Hoping for the best. I'm sure with the international doors opening and stalwarts like you all, kind of taking interest in such things, I'm sure we'll be reaching where we want to reach very soon.
I hope and I think UNESCO is going to shed a new light on this particular festival.
Because the standards will be much more higher.
Yeah, I am yet to see a foreign crowd here. It's there, but to a small extent, and I'm definitely trying as much as I can to also spread the word about Durga Puja where I'm from and all of the international friends that I have. I think also in terms of tourism, if you think about it, why would you choose a destination? I mean, maybe you're going to have
because it's in a book that has a bucket list. I would feel bad if I didn't see something. Why would I go see the pyramids? I would see it because I have to see it.
Right. So there's potentially a historical element. There's potentially a landscape, nature kind of element to your choice of destination. I think the tourism for art or for festival is yet to take its full extent, maybe in the tourism space.
But then again, I'm sure the seeds have been sown.
Yeah.
So just
wait and see.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure hosting you here both.
Thank you.
And on behalf of everybody from all the people watching and everyone in Bengal, I extend my heartiest greetings. Please enjoy the pujo and have a great time here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.